Okay, guys, welcome back to class. Today we are going to be talking about argumentative essays as well as thesis statements. These are two things that we covered recently, and we're just going to kind of review, go over the highlights, and talk about what does it mean to write a good argumentative essay and what it means to write a really strong thesis statement. So, this is everything you basically need to know in order to write an argumentative essay. So the first step is going to be choose your controversial or interesting topic that you are interested in yourself. You don't want to go and pick a topic that you have no interest in whatsoever because you're not going to be passionate about it, whatever. And if you pick a controversial topic, you're more than likely going to have the attention of your readers as well. That way, you have their attention from the beginning just based on the topic. Next, you have to do some reading on that topic. You have to be able to find information and resources and facts about that topic in order to make your paper what it needs to be. I know research isn't the easiest thing for you guys to do, and I know sometimes it's hard to find sources, especially when the topics are controversial enough to where either the school blocks it or uh, it's just hard to really find that type of information. Google Scholar is a great source to use. It gives you articles and websites and journal entries. Also, another good source is the Library of Congress. Using their online website, you have access to all their articles and news pages. The Smithsonian website, all these kind of Eric is probably a great one. Probably one of the better ones to use, eric.ed. I think that's the website. I will definitely double check that for you all. And it, again, has all these resources. Now, one thing that I've noticed is you guys have a tendency when you find really good resources, will not use them mostly because they're about 14 pages long. You're sitting there thinking to yourself, I really don't have time or a want to read all this for my paper. But I promise you that if you do that, you're going to find the majority of your information from sources like that. They are usually credible, especially if they're printed or published within the last 10 years. They are pretty credible. The information is up to date. So again, do some reading on your topic. Find those websites, find those articles, books, things like that in order to help you write this. You don't have to write this by yourself. It's just like informational. You're finding the facts and finding the information and presenting it. So step 3, writing a thesis statement. Make sure your thesis statement is clear. Make sure you have the support within the paper. If you do not, then your thesis statement falls flat. If you've mentioned something in your thesis statement and you have no support for it in your paper whatsoever, then your thesis statement's not strong and is incorrect and misleading for your readers. They are going to be expecting that topic to be covered, and then you've left them high and dry with those expectations and you did not deliver. When it comes to classwork, then if you've put it in the thesis statement, the teacher's going to expect you to have it in your paper somewhere. And make sure that the order that you've written your thesis statement in is the order that you have your support, facts, and information in your paper as well. There has to be that cohesion, that same togetherness, that flow within the paper as well. And we're going to talk more about thesis statement at the end of this presentation, just because I want to go more in depth and really look at it piece by piece, because it's such an important part of this type of writing and of informational. So step 4, choose 2 ideas. Now, I've said choose 2 ideas. Is 2 ideas all you're allowed to have? No, you can have more than 2. I encourage more than 2. Yes, exactly. Um, be reasonable with as many as you want, because you don't want to set yourself up for failure. You don't want to have so many that you will not finish, but you want to have enough to where you have proven your point correctly to your audience and your readers. You want it to be supported with all those details, those facts, numbers, testimonies, all those kind of things that supports your position on this paper. So make sure your reasons are well supported. This kind of goes back to the previous step where it was saying make sure you're doing your reading, make sure you're listing your facts. So step 5, consider the opposing arguments, your counterclaim. If you were to argue with your friends, how would they try to prove you wrong? That's a question I like you guys to ask yourselves, because that is one of the most experience that you have. You have the most experience with arguing with your friends. So how would they say, nope, you're wrong, let me give you this reason? And consider that. Considering the counterclaim is an important step in this process. Before, when you was doing argumentative essays, you addressed the counterclaim, you kind of hinted at it, but this time you are literally delving into the counterclaim, what they're saying, and also going on the attack, proving why it is incorrect or misleading, whatever you have to say about it. That is required. You have to have this counterclaim within your paper. And it is usually the last paragraph or last couple of paragraphs at the end before your concluding paragraph. Step 6, organize your ideas into an outline. Do this before any paper. Organize it. This outline right here is a very good and very basic outline for you guys to just put your ideas. So in paragraph 1, you're going to put your ideas, your opening claims, everything that's going to introduce what this paper is about. So, and you're also going to have your thesis statement within that paper. Yes, Landon, it is at the end of that first paragraph. It is the last sentence. Bailey, you're right. Yep, you guys are right. It's the last sentence of that paragraph. It's what leads into the main part of your paper. You are writing about that. So the first part of your introduction really needs to be the hook. It needs to grab your reader's attention. And we'll go more into that here in just a little bit. Paragraph 2, that is your first reason for support. That is your first reason supporting that thesis. Paragraph 3 is your second reason for supporting that. And paragraph 4 needs to be your strongest supporting argument and your counterclaim. Usually those two are going to be around the same topic or same thing. That way you can counter whatever it is that they're saying. Now, I know it just says paragraph 2, 3, and 4. You can have more than that. You can have 3 reasons for support and 2 counterclaims. That is perfectly okay. If you find enough information and you want to use that much information, then that is perfectly fine. I encourage you to be able to do that. Now, paragraph 5 is your conclusion. Everything that you've said, you need to go back and summarize and use the supporting ideas in this conclusion. You got to restate that thesis at the beginning. What was your paper about? Remind your readers. Also, to end it, you go broad again. Remember, we talked yesterday about how we start very broad with our paper. We keep it open up, get your audience to start thinking about the idea, about the topic, and then you start narrowing it down with your thesis. What is it about this topic that you're going to be speaking on? So in the conclusion, you reverse that. You go back and you narrow it down to where you had it, and then you open it back up to make your audience think on that topic. So you can make a prediction over what your topic was, maybe make a recommendation or summary of what you think is going to happen. Leave with a question sometimes. Get them to think about what it is they need to be doing with this topic. So step 7, follow your outline and write the essay. Be sure to edit your essay with grammar, spelling, and word choice errors. I feel like that is a point that needs to be made all the time. Reread your papers. I know once you finish writing it, you're done. You don't want to see the thing anymore. You just want it turned in and see what grade you got. If you reread your paper and you go over it, read it out loud. You're going to find mistakes that you never thought about. You're going to find things that you didn't see before. And just have fun with it. And this is interesting information. And from the last time when we did argumentative essays, you guys took to the topics really well. They were things that you wanted to know about and that you wanted to learn, and you learned a lot from that. And some of you had to defend sides you didn't necessarily agree with. And I think, just assuming, I know you're not supposed to, but from that experience, you learned a lot that you didn't normally, or normally that you wouldn't have considered about the other side. This right here is an image that is called a thesis generator. It has what your thesis needs in it, what questions you need to be asking to see if your thesis statement is strong enough or has everything that it needs. So, the first thing you need to consider, what is the topic that you're going to be talking about? What is that overall topic that you are writing about, you are researching? In this case, the example that we have here is who's to blame for the obesity epidemic? Okay? So that's their topic. That is a very broad topic, and there are many factors that play into that. So they need to narrow that down a little bit. Next, what is your stance or claim? That is going to narrow it down significantly. Once you have your claim or what position you are on, what side you're on in the argument, that's going to narrow it down. And the way they've narrowed it down is parents should teach their children healthy eating habits. So one of the many factors within the obesity epidemic is parents, and that's the one they're choosing to go with. So what is your rationale for this stance? And rationale basically means reasoning. What is your idea behind it? Why are you considering this? Why are you choosing this? What was the thought process? So what is your rationale for choosing the side that you chose? Well, this person has put, because parents are the first to teach and model healthy eating habits. So they're saying parents are the front line when it comes to how children eat. That's going to be one of their main claims. That's one of the things that they're saying supports the fact that parents are one of the leading causes of the obesity epidemic. Next, what concessions will you make to qualify your stance and acknowledge your opposition? I know that was a lot of words that were kind of confusing, because usually you only hear the word concessions when we're talking about ball games. But what it means in this instance is, what kind of proof and what kind of considerations are you going to use in order to make your side seem like the logical side, and the opposition not only acknowledge them but address it in a way that makes it seem like it's not the clear-cut choice and yours is? So they've said, although some want to blame the fast food industry for the obesity epidemic, and that is going to be their counter. They are saying fast food restaurants are more to blame than the parents would be. So that would be the thing that you would have to address. You would have to address why they're saying that, and also try to prove what and how that is incorrect, and that parents are the ones that still. So once you take your qualification, once you take your position, once you take the stance that you've made, and once you take the rationale or the thoughts that you've come up with it, you put that all together and you will have your thesis statement. So their thesis says, although some blame the fast food industry for obesity, they've addressed their counterclaim right off the bat, which is okay. Parents are more at fault because they are the first to teach and model healthy eating habits to their children. So we've got our counterclaim, we've got the argument. We know that it's about the obesity epidemic. That's our topic. We know that their counterclaim, or what the other side's going to say, is that fast food industry is the one to blame. Now, they're also saying that parents are more at fault. They're not denying the fact that the fast food industry has no part in this whatsoever, but they are saying that their side or their position, the stance being that the parents are more to blame, is the correct one. So you put all that together and you have your thesis statement. Here's another model to look at that you can use when considering your thesis statement. So make the topic specific. Exactly who does it affect? Exactly who is it about? When did it happen? How many people were involved? How many things were involved? Which one specifically, and where? Where did it happen? Then you're going to continue with a debatable phrase. Does not, should not. It highlights or ignores. Those are phrases that do not say, yes, this is correct. This is exactly how it is. This is right and everything else is wrong. No, this leaves you guys open to debate. This leaves your argument open to be critiqued or talked about or disputed. Then you got to explain the significance to the audience. They have to know, why is this important for them to know your side and your position. So you can be saying, this is proving that the obesity epidemic is caused by parents instead of the fast food, resulting in parents being the leading cause of the obesity epidemic, making us doubt that the food industry is what's causing obesities rather than the parents, or reminding us that it is up to the parents to help children make these types of choices for their kids. So let's look at these two examples. First one has a lot to it. It has a lot of information in there. It's more specific, in my opinion. So the second one, starting with it, the longer school day in Chicago next year does guarantee more learning opportunities, resulting in increased student success. For one, they are saying it's a fact. They are saying that it will be, they'll be guaranteed more learning opportunities, which we're not sure, and resulting in increased student success. Well, what does increased student success look like? What specifics does that mean? What are we talking about when we say increased student success? And what are the learning opportunities that they're talking about? Again, it's very non-specific and just kind of general. But example number one, the longer school day in Chicago next year does not guarantee that students will be productive in classes, reminding us that young people need to find learning meaningful. So they went into a little bit more specifics. Learning will be does not guarantee it will be productive. We all know that productive students in class are working on the assignments they have at hand, and so on and so forth. And we also know that making learning meaningful is what's applied to them. What does it mean to them? How is it meaningful to them? How can they apply it to their life? So in my opinion, that one is a little bit more specific. I get a little bit more about what the paper is going to be about in that. So let's go up and we're going to look at the different types of rhetorical devices that we can use in order to persuade your audience. So we have ethos, pathos, and logos. Ethos is credibility. You're taking someone else's credibility, someone else's celebrity, someone else's fame, their credentials, things like that. You're taking that in order to persuade them that you're correct. Or someone like Einstein. If Einstein was saying anything about math or science, then we would probably believe him due to his credibility, due to his status in the field of science and math. Now, pathos is emotion. That, honestly, the easiest example is going back to those commercials about the Humane Society, and you got Sarah McLachlan's song in the background, Everyone's teary-eyed because they're seeing the pictures of the dogs and all the animals in need, and she's calling for action. That is using pathos. That's using your emotions or the emotions of those reading or watching it in order to convince them of something, to persuade them. Logos, logic, numbers, facts. That's the kind of things that you're looking for logos. You want to know exactly what this means. For some of you, it would be maybe the money. Maybe something is on sale. They're trying to sell the new iPhone 11, and they've got a 50% sale on the Apple Store right now for iPhone 11. Well, that's numbers. That's logic. Logically, you would probably jump on a sale like that because you're normally not going to find that. They're going to convince you, persuade you to buy the iPhone. Yes, you can use the fact that iPhone is one of the most used phones by using scales, numbers, and things like that. Exactly. You can charts and graphs are a good way in papers. Statistics um, are good way to use logos to convince them. If I say 75% of students prefer online learning as opposed to in-class learning, do you think you would believe that a little bit more just because I have a specific number? Yeah, you would believe that just because the number's there, and if I have it backed up with um, facts, articles, statistics, and things like that more so, then yeah, it's going to be more credible. So let's scroll on down to this next image to really delve into things that you can use. These are the types of things that you use in these persuasion techniques. So again, logos. You can use arguments, benefits, facts, figures, data, numbers, statistics, scientific research, processes, and product characteristics. All those things are facts. Those are basic pieces of information that you have used or that you have found um, that are proving a point, basically. So facts and figures, data of different types of things are going to prove that, and that's going to reach a certain audience. Now, numbers and things like that are not going to always reach every single person. You have to use a mixture of these techniques in order to have an effect on your audience. Ethos, that is the the ethics. That is what you guys are trying to persuade with. It is that credibility. Um, Personal anecdotes. My English one knows a lot about anecdotes at this point. Those are short stories over a topic and things like that. So why me? Why specifically should this target me? Client testimonials. If someone's used a product or someone's used something, um, then they're going to be believable. They're going to be a credible source. Success stories. Obviously, if it was a success, then you would have to, um, you could use that to persuade them. It's like, well, if it worked for this person, then why wouldn't it work for you? A track record. And titles. So titles meaning like a doctor. Obviously, you're going to take medical advice from a doctor. Make sure when you're delivering these types of things that this is the types of things that you would use in a presentation, like a speech or something like that. Make sure you're making eye contact. Make sure your body language is good, posture, and everything like that. Use a vocal variety. Speak faster when things are a little bit more fast paced. Slow things down when you're trying to make a more dramatic point. Poise, again, that's body position. And then pathos. Make sure you include the positive and negatives of things. It doesn't always have to be the sad emotions. You can use um, happy things as well and play on those emotions. Make sure you're going on all of them, like frustration, anger, love, respect. All those are emotions that you can consider when you're using pathos in order to convince your audience. Well, guys, that's all I have for today. I hope you learned a little bit about argumentative essays and what you need in order to write a really good argument to get your point across, to get the fact that you've done your research on both sides of the story rather than just the one side, and you're very convincing with your language, making sure you use those rhetorical devices, logos, pathos, and ethos, and all of that. Remember, you can reach me here on YouTube. You can reach me on Instagram. You can get a hold of me in Google Classroom. However, it is you need to get a hold of me during this time. And I hope you all have a great day.